Patty, thanks so much. And it's great to have Dan Bilak here and Andy Bain. And I see Andrii has joined us. Wonderful, Andrii Osadchuk. The theme, as Patty said, we did have a conference literally 3 or 4 days before the war broke out. It was very timely. And now the war is approaching a 6-month mark. A lot of people here in the US are curious, wondering where it's going to go. The feeling is a lot of materiel is getting into place and the counteroffensive should start. August historically has been a very bad month for the Russians, if you're superstitious. So let's hope that happens. Andy, let me just quickly introduce everybody. Dan Bilak, who I first knew, well, he's a lawyer, long-term, Canadian. He is the senior counsel for Kinstellar in Kyiv and was very active promoting Ukraine through UkraineInvest, the state investment promotion agency. Andy Bain has been in American, retired colonel, been in the US, been in Kyiv for about 30 years, running one of the largest ad agencies, and founder of the Ukrainian Freedom Foundation, which raises money to supply key material to the men and women fighting for Ukraine. And Andrii Osadchuk is from the Golos or Voice Party, and he's trained, I think, at Travshashenko, and has had a very outspoken role as a good, strong English speaker, talking to British radio and other outlets representing Ukraine. As I understand it, and I can't tell from your backgrounds, all three of you are in Kyiv or Kyiv region, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, good.
Correct.
Great. Dan, get me your thoughts on where things are going. And I do want to hear about your lawsuit blocking the turbine that you filed yesterday. But tell us from your outlook, it's been a long 6 months, 5.5 months. What are you predicting for the next few weeks? Where are things going?
Well, I think that, the prediction is still the one that I think many people were making a while ago, is that if we get the right type of equipment in the time that we need it, we will win. And I think that's been the calculation all along. I mean, I was really surprised leading up to the war with all this talk about Ukraine is going to fold in 3 days and 72 hours. I mean, that was clear to anybody who lived here that was not going to happen. We've been at war for 8 years with the Russians, and we know how to fight them. So the question was, were we going to get enough kit and the right kind of kit to be able to do that? And that seems to be coming in. It's probably maybe not coming in as fast as we'd like, but it is coming in. And I was just talking with Andy earlier about the fact that the HIMARS have seemed to make a substantial difference in the very brief period that they've been on the field. I think we've been watching fireworks displays as they blow up Russian supply and ammunition depots in southern Ukraine. So I mean, I really the key thing, Jim, is for the West not to lose focus, and that we maintain the sanctions, a very robust, even stronger sanctions policy. We have to degrade Vladimir Putin's ability to wage war. Our troops have just had a horrific last 2 months, withstanding the barrage of bombings that they've put up with, the artillery that they've had to face in the Donbass, and we've suffered heavy losses. And but the Russians are in trouble as well, and I think Andy can probably talk to that a little better than I can. Yep. And if we hold on to the sanctions and we don't do backsliding like Canada seems to have done, then I think we have a good chance in the next, hopefully, I mean, I don't know, by the end of the year, beginning of next year, to be in a position where we've taken back most of our land.
Yeah, Dan, good. Let's get back to turbine a little later. Andy, Dan appropriately mentioned that the first 3 days were obviously miscalled by the Western press and Western analysts, and the first 2 months were quite glorious. Now, as Dan just mentioned, the last 2 months have been really rough on Ukrainian troops on the front lines. This kind of Soviet-style artillery barrage that they've been subjected to. Are we entering a new phase? Has the Ukrainian military, are they adapting? Have they learned lessons from the experience in the Donbass? What are you predicting?
I'd say it's tough to predict. A lot of it's going to be strategic, from a Ukrainian perspective. I think you're seeing heavy casualties. You're seeing a lot of troops rush to the front without adequate training. Ukraine, there are a number of people who probably should be investigated and fired or put in jail for malfeasance in terms of preparation or conduct. The bright side of all that is the Russians are faring even worse and are in a much worse situation than the Ukrainians. I think I do think the current front is going to stalemate. I don't think the Russians have the resources to push much further than they are. They might try something more in the east, but they're really kind of spent, I think. I do think the Ukrainians are going to go on a counteroffensive at some point. Going on a counteroffensive is much more difficult than defending. It's easy to put 10 guys out there with a couple of javelins and put them in groups and spread them across and wait. Coordinating artillery fire and air support in a mass offensive is a little more sophisticated, and I think they'll be able to pull it off. I think, like Dan said, they need a lot more weapons to do that, and they're in a time crunch against the fall. So, if you're looking at the current tactical situation, I think we'll see a stalemate probably until early September, and then possibly an attempt at an offensive of some sort going forward.
Yeah. Andrii, you're often representing Ukraine to the wider world. Are you worried? How worried are you that the US, EU, UK, especially with the departure of Boris Johnson, this US, UK, EU coalition could start to fracture?
So first of all the picture is developing based on expectations. Unfortunately, even in the early March, it was absolutely clear for me and for many people in Kyiv that enthusiasm went down in 3, maximum 4 months, and that's exactly what we see now. One of my friends today paid my attention on Guardian, I think, and the news about war in Ukraine just in the bottom of the page. So there are a lot of other important news, and that's very good indication that the West is losing interest, and it's not because the West is bad. That's probably because humans are. I'm here. Yeah, not because the West is bad, but because the humans in the West, they're organized on that way that they used to some kind of serial. And after 10 or 15, series, so they want something more. So that's why definitely a lot of depend on leadership, a lot of depend on leaders who shall deliver not only good news, but bad news too. Yes, the possible stepping down of Boris Johnson, it's probably some kind of problem for Ukraine, but we rely on the decisions which have been already made. And my assessment that the bads are so high, really high, after giving Ukraine the association status, after NATO summit, which proclaimed Russia as the main threat to civilized world. And after all the statements from United States, from United Kingdom on support and standing with Ukraine, that we believe that Ukraine will receive enough resources to continue not only resistance, but as correctly our colleague said, that we need to counter offense. So we need to push them back. And I think the last week, especially, the last week clearly showed that we were right from the very, very beginning, because myself and other people were saying that duration of this war is directly linked to the readiness of the West to provide us with modern story. And we know why these delays happened. And by the way, I very much thank you for Boris Johnson, who said in the parliament that yes, we were late, but now we start not only receiving good weapons, we demonstrate that we can use these weapons very efficiently.